Jason, good evening. How are you?
All is well. How about you?
All is well, man. You know, March.
Getting close. Feeling
Starting to feel it.
A little bit warmer.
Starting to feel it, right?
Lawn chairs are coming out soon. One more month.
But no pool. No pool till
Not yet,
no
no.
pool till May or June, right?
Oh.
Jason, I want to talk about an interesting topic, and I've been getting a lot of feedback from some clients on this. And the topic is conversations versus conflicts in family estate planning. And how many times do you hear of a family, mom and dad are there, they got a little bit of money, they've got some kids, the kids are all married, they start talking about the wills, they give this son some money, they don't give the daughter money, or vice versa, whatever it may be. And there's this conflict, right? And then what happens is mom and dad are quiet and secretive about all of their will information. And then, of course, something happens to the parents and the kids step in. And there hasn't been a conversation over years and years within a family dynamic. And now what happens is when they're doing the will, there's conflict, right, among siblings and spouses. And
Yeah.
this is a pretty dangerous topic to get into. And I guess the question I'm saying right now, or I'm putting out there to our listeners and to yourself is really, it's time to have a conversation, as opposed to having conflicts in family estate planning.
Yeah, and most families don't think it's going to be them. Oh, we're all good. Everybody gets along and things like that. But when it comes to money, and there's some significant money on the table with the inheritance, always a conflict.
Absolutely. And there was an RBC stat here from an article I pulled up. So only in Canada right now, only 48% of Canadians actually have a will. So more than half of Canadians don't even have a will. Of those that have a will, 66% said they have no formalized estate plan. So writing a will isn't an estate plan. You've written a will, you've put some documents on paper, this is my executor, money's going to go here, but there is no really formalized estate plan. And there was a great article out by Tim Sesnick in the Globe and Mail, and I want to give him credit because this was a great article. And he talked about having this conversation. He calls it the 5 Ds of estate planning. So the 5 Ds are this, of building your estate plan. 1 is define, 2 is design, 3 is document, 4 is discuss, and 5 is distribution. So let's kind of get into these, Jason. What do these five topics really mean when it comes to estate planning?
Well, the first one is define, right? So the idea is to review your total assets, your net worth, your home, your investments, your debts. Just pile everything together. Make sure you come up with some true estate valuations. Also, double check on the tax implications. Some things are going to be tax-free down to your inheritance or your beneficiaries. Others are going to have some tax implications. So it's important to understand which vehicles have the true value and which vehicles are going to be a little bit less. And of course, with that becomes, do you want to equalize the estate? You want to make sure that, do all the kids get, or charities, do they get the same amount, or are there some different obstacles or different issues with each beneficiary?
Right, and it's a great point. And even the reviewing of the total assets. I mean, how many people die in this country and the kids don't know where everything's located? Yeah. Where are the bank accounts? Where are the insurance policies? Where's the will? Right? There's a lot of unknown. And I think if you're an executor of an estate, maybe it's mom and dad, you're the executor, it's a big enough job having to provide that role. But if you don't know where everything's located, it makes it really difficult. And I wouldn't want to take on that responsibility.
Right. And it goes back to the idea, just what the topic of our conversation is today. Have the conversation, or there's going to be a conflict. Right. The second D in estate planning is design. So again, who oversees that estate plan? One of the most important issues is who's going to be the executor. Right. And most people put it their kids, but it might not necessarily be appropriate. Who are going to be the beneficiaries? Are there going to be any charities that receive any money? Are there dependent children? And do you want to give or leave some money to the grandkids? So it's really important to come up with that design of what your estate plan is going to be.
I had a lawyer friend years ago said to me that when she was in law school and they were doing wills and estates, the teacher said, just because they're your kids doesn't mean they should be your executor.
For sure.
You get kids that are unprepared, untrained. They don't understand the complexity of being an executor. It's one of the most critical roles we can pick. I mean, I can see, you picking, depending on age, age appropriate, obviously, right, Jason, is, you get your kids who are 25 and 30. Are they really ready to be an executor of a complicated estate, or is it better to have somebody else than at some point down the road have the kids jump in?
And they might not be in town or even in the country, right? So there might be some that can manage things like the bank accounts here where the family lives, but if there's one of the kids is living somewhere else, it can cause a real problem.
Yeah, and obviously with Ontario, dying in Ontario, it's an Ontario Act, so therefore you want to make sure your executors are housed in Ontario. Otherwise, there's even more complication behind that. The third D here in a good estate plan is the documents. So, here's the $1 million question, right? Like, where's the will? First of all, I mean, is it buried in a box in the basement? What lawyer has the will? How many years ago was the will written? Were there wills written? After that will, after that, is this the real will, the most current will? And we always talk too about our clients is, everybody has to have their personal will, but if you're a business owner, if you own a corporation, you want to make sure you have your corporate will as well. And one of the big questions, in addition, is, the lawyer, right? The lawyer's office. And it's funny, right? Like, I've met a lot of people that are in their 80s and the lawyer's been retired for 20 years. Yeah. And that law firm has moved on, or, is that will still there? Was the will at a different lawyer's office? It's important to know that. Also, too, in the document area is, are there any trusts? Is there a testamentary trust? Parents that have wealth, they might at some point move this wealth into a trust. Is that a strategy? Again, talk to your lawyer, talk to your accountant. And the other thing, too, is, having that sheet that shows all of my assets, all of my liabilities, all of my debts, where everything's located. I mean, we have a really amazing tool in our office, which is our Quick Estate program, which basically takes all this into calculation when it comes to doing the estate work. But if you don't have it with us, then it's important that you get it with somebody.
Yeah, for sure. The Quick Estate program saves time, saves money, right. It saves a lot of headaches.
The fourth D here is discuss. And again, it's important. I think, I've already sat down with my kids and had a very brief review of my estate, what's going to happen. But again, when you start putting these plans into place, it's okay to bring in your children, leave spouses aside, right? Bring them all in, bring the kids in, have a family meeting. The question is, in the conversation of discussing, the estate plan is, are you going to equalize or not? Like, what happens if one child's really successful, one child's not successful? If you're not going to equalize, you might want to have that conversation up front, get some dialogue back and forth. Nothing worse than walking into the lawyer's office. Mom and dad have died. Their estate's worth $2 million, and the bulk of it goes to a sibling because the sibling was just, wasn't financially savvy, right? So again, equalize or not, that's important. And again, full disclosure. I mean, a lot of times, a lot of parents that we talk to, our clients, is, they'll slide $100,000 to one of their kids. The kid's got a mortgage, having a mortgage issue, having a family issue, maybe going through a divorce. And again, like, make sure you document it, because if one of the other kids finds out about this and it's not equalized, then you've got an internal conflict within the family.
For sure. And we see it a lot too with parents giving money for a down payment for a house now, right? And again, if that's not documented and one of the siblings finds out, it could be a real issue when you're distributing all the assets. So,
100%.
The fourth, I think it's fifth one.
Yeah.
Fifth D in estate planning is distribution, as we talked a little bit about. It depends on how complicated the will and the estate plan can be, but discuss how long this could possibly take. So again, if it's a complex estate, if there's corporations involved, if there's a number of wills, this thing could take up to a few years. So don't expect to get your money right away, unless of course it's life insurance, when that should pay out relatively quickly, but it can go up to a couple of years. Talk about the executor roles. Is he or she going to be distributing things? Is he going to be looking at the taxes and all the withholdings? You've got to make sure that you hold some tax back, because some of the registered assets, the government's going to come looking for that tax, and so the executor is going to have to hold some of it back. And the number one thing, we've seen this a few times, is make sure at the end of the day that executor gets that clearance certificate, which basically tells you that, okay, the government's paid, everything is paid, all the beneficiaries are paid, and you're clear for.
And you can do the final settlement. And you made a great point about the timelines, because what happens is that you have a complicated estate. Maybe the son or the daughter are the executors. They have full-time jobs. They have full-time lives. They're trying to, sell the house and wind down the assets. And you've got lawyers, you've got probate, all these different things. And you've got, sometimes you have the spouses of the siblings chirping in the ear of the, of the son or daughter about, hey, why are we waiting 2 years to get the money from your parents' estate? I think it's important to set appropriate timelines, like you said. And maybe if you're the executor, again, you can look at the assets and say, hey guys, we're gonna make a small distribution up front, and then every 6 months as things clear, we're gonna push it through. But again, Jason, the bottom line is, having a great conversation up front beats at some point reducing some of the conflict down the road. And I think, there's nothing worse than losing a parent, losing a loved one. What's even worse is when all of a sudden families break up because of money, because of favoritism.
We see it.
Because of things like that. So hopefully for anybody out there, if you've got an estate and it's worth protecting, make sure you have the conversation, and that way you're not going to risk having conflict. Jason Pollock, again, thanks for coming on It's Your Wealth. Really appreciate it.
It was good to join you.
Great insight.